Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. And I am back. I am back. So you're probably wondering where the hell I've been over the past few weeks and months. It's a long story, but I'll try and cut it short. I've basically had two strikes on my YouTube channel, and also Google AdSense basically has stopped paying me for months. They weren't putting through any money into my bank account because they found my channel too political. So obviously I live in UK and they probably sanctioned me or something. And I've also had the similar issues Nigel Farage had as well. I've had bank issues. My bank basically was giving me a lot of hassle, and I don't know why, but I had to change my bank and I had to open up a brand new Google AdSense account as well. My old AdSense account, all the money I made from YouTube channels, I did not get it back. I had to lose all of it. But end of the day, it's only money, who cares? And I've also had two strikes on my YouTube channel. So I was basically thinking whether to go ahead doing YouTube videos anymore because it was just getting a bit too much, if you know what I mean. So I took a second job in that time and I tried to do two jobs. But I couldn't hack it doing two jobs, to be honest. It was just too much for me. I was just too tired at the end of the day. And I decided to quit one of the jobs. So I'm back to my usual government job, 9 to 5. I'm going to stick it with that. Um, so yeah, so things have not been going too well for me lately, especially with the YouTube stuff. But what I've done now is I've opened a brand new Google AdSense account with a brand new bank account. So obviously it's not linked to my old bank account and old Google AdSense. And hopefully this one works. Regards to my two strikes to my YouTube channel, I'm going to open up a brand new YouTube channel and I want to ask you guys a favor to subscribe to that, and I'll put the link in the description. And I'm going to start again basically. Might be a good thing because the one I have now is shadow banned and I have not been gaining any new subscribers for a while. So yeah, I was just thinking whether to get back into YouTube or not because all of these issues that the government and the banks and Google were giving me, basically doing everything they can to stop me from talking. I thought about it and I said, you know what, you know, screw it. I'm just gonna carry on doing what I'm doing and try and give you guys the truth. And I think that's more important. And so I'm gonna try and carry on doing that. So hopefully can carry on. Hopefully the Google AdSense thing works with my new bank account. Hopefully that works as well. And hopefully I'll get all of you guys moved over to the new channel and I can carry on. And I think that's probably the best way forward, to be honest. No point being negative about it. Everyone that tries to shut you down, you're obviously doing something right, correct? So yeah, I'm gonna carry on doing what I'm doing. And so without further ado, let's carry on with the show. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is Kissinger going to China. And you're probably asking yourself, why is this 100-year-old man going all the way to China? He could have died on the plane, right? I mean, he could have he's not in a fit state to travel hundreds and thousands of miles all the way to China and all the way back. I mean, why the hell did they send a really old man all the way to China? I mean, he's 100 years old. I mean, he can barely get on a flight, let alone travel long distances. So kudos on him for still being alive after this. But seriously, he shouldn't be traveling at his age. I remember the Queen also was basically about around 100 years old as well. I can't remember her exact age. But it took Liz Truss's handshake to completely get rid of her because the last thing the Queen did was shook Liz Truss's hand, and a few days later she passed. So obviously it's Liz Truss's fault. But let's not get into that anymore. So I'm going to talk about why Kissinger went to China. Why? this old man went all the way to China. But before I talk about this, I have to kind of go back to Blinken going to China. And this seems to be um, an ongoing thing where the United States is doing everything they can to stabilize their relationship with China, but also they want something from China as well. Because think about it. If I have somebody knocking on my door every single day they're knocking on my door, they want something from me, right? If I have someone calling me on my phone every single minute, every single day, they want something from me. I'm not the one that's calling them. I'm not the one that's going around their house. They're calling me, they're coming round, so they want something from me. I have something they want. That's basically it. So you got to look at it that way. So it's the United States that's going to China, not the other way around. So they want something from China. So we got to figure out what exactly do they want. So first of all, Blinken went to China to try and calm things down and also try and get concessions out of China. And he got grilled for 10 hours straight by Chinese officials. And you got to remember the last time Blinken sat with Chinese officials was in Anchorage. And at that time, he tried to embarrass the Chinese officials. He tried to kind of talk about human rights in front of the press and try to talk about all these other issues to try and embarrass the Chinese. But he didn't expect the Chinese to actually grill him back. And he was basically a very embarrassing day for him, for Blinken in Anchorage. Absolutely got embarrassed by the Chinese officials. And he probably got embarrassed again for another 10 hours. They probably absolutely grilled him. And um, and the Chinese have got a lot of things that they, basically grilled him about. And things like all of these technology curbs against Chinese companies, all these companies being put on the blacklist, all these semiconductor curbs, Chip 4 acts, all of these companies not allowed to buy semiconductor equipment, um, not allowed to buy the latest chips from Nvidia, and things like that. There's a whole hell of a lot of technology curbs that the United States are placing on China. And not only that, they're getting involved with Taiwan. They're sending ships around Taiwan. They're sending officials to Taiwan. They're basically sending weapons to Taiwan. So, and they have all these military bases all around China as well. So obviously, it's the United States that are basically being aggressive. And, it's not China with military bases all around America. It's the other way around. It's American bases all around China. And recently, Philippines agreed to having four more military bases that are going to be facing China, South China Sea, Taiwan as well. So they're increasing their military bases all around China. They're increasing their sanctions all across China as well. So it's the United States being aggressive, not the other way around. So you've got to look at it that way. So why the hell is Blinken going to China? Why the hell is Yellen going to China? Why the hell is John Kerry going to China? It's all about money, guys. End of the day, it's all about money. Money. If you know how the United States work, it's all about money. Everything that they do is all about money. They don't do it for any other reasons. They don't do it for human rights. They don't do it for the goodness out of their hearts. They all do it for money. Every single war the United States has fought, it was all about money. End of the day, it was all about money, natural resources, and power and hegemony. It's all about money. Comes down to it. So why is it all about money? First of all, United States is in a huge debt issue, 32 trillion in debt. Um, and this is growing, by the way. Every month you can add an extra 500 billion to that figure, and uh, and is growing and is growing very fast. The interest alone is around 680 billion. They have to pay on just on interest on those on that debt. So they want China to basically help them get out of this debt. They want China to buy treasuries. They want China to buy the US bonds. However, China has been selling US debt and US bonds over the past year or so. And not only China, but other countries are starting to sell the bonds as well. Japan, Great Britain, many of the allies are selling US bonds. Nobody wants to buy US bonds anymore because everyone knows the dollar is tanking, the economy is tanking. Um, Fed doesn't know what the hell it's doing, and banks are collapsing in the United States. People are, there's been, I mean, this year alone, there has been more redundant, I mean, more bankruptcies in United States just in the last 6 months than the whole last 10 years, apparently, according to the statistics. So there's a huge amount of bankruptcies happening. A lot of big major tech companies are laying off staff, and you know, con- they're very soon they're going to be in recession. Their dollar is collapsing as well. Recently, the dollar has gone under $100. I'll show you the dollar index later on, and it's recently gone up to its lowest point ever, and the yields are increasing as well. So they need China to basically buy US bonds and US treasuries because they need to get themselves out of trouble. So when a country buys US treasuries, they got that money, they can put that money into the military complex, they can buy stuff, but they don't spend it on infrastructure. They don't. You say United States, they don't spend in the on infrastructure, on anything useful. He all goes to the military industrial complex. He all goes to Ukraine, then he gets siphoned back into the United States military complex, and that's what it's all about. The only thing that's increasing in United States budget is the military budget, while everything else is decreasing. So it's all about the military industrial complex, and this is why Mr. Kissinger's all down to went down to China, and I'll explain why. So let's go back to Blinken. Blinken obviously is probably the worst foreign um, foreign minister out there. He's on a par with Alanina Baerbock, and I think they're just bad as each other. Liz Truss, you can put her in that bracket as well. She was really, really bad. And I mean, I don't even know why Blinken's still foreign minister because nobody likes him. I mean, every single country hates him. He doesn't get along with anyone at all. You know, any country he goes to, he never gets any red carpet treatment or uh, any good treatment apart from UK. He is absolutely hated around the world. He never does a good job. He's hated around the Middle East, hated in China and Asia. He insults the Asians and the Vietnamese. Uh, he's just the worst foreign minister. So for him, still in his job, is just making the Biden administration into a joke, really. So his trip obviously was down to waste. All the work that this guy did for taking a 10-hour grilling, Biden basically destroyed it by calling President Xi a dictator, and And that's not the worst of it. Basically, Blinken backs Biden's comments calling President Xi a dictator. And this was after, Blinken was allowed to meet President Xi just for photo ops. I don't think they had a massive conversation. I think the Chinese just wanted to give face to the Americans and say, you know what, you can have a photo op with President Xi, and that's it. And this is what the Chinese do. They like to give face. They don't want to completely embarrass the poor guy. They want him to go back to United States, saying that, yeah, President Xi didn't ignore me. He gave me some time, blah blah blah. So so the Chinese did what they could. Then a few weeks later, um, you know, basically the Americans put some more semiconductor curbs on the Chinese. They were not allowed to buy DUV machines from ASML. And in return, China basically banned gallium and germanium. So all of these chats that they did, talking about reducing, calming the situation down, it just hasn't helped at all. America just went back and started putting more sanctions on China, and obviously China said, you know what, we've had enough. Let's just stop sanctioning United States back. So they've sanctioned them with two products that is required for semiconductors, and these products are also required for military purposes as well. Radars, F-35s use them as well, and China is one of the biggest producers of these products, and second biggest producer is Russia. So good luck for Americans to go to Russia to buy germanium or gallium. That's not going to happen either. So this is only a start, by the way. I mean, China is still producing 80% of the rare earths, and China hasn't even started sanctioning back the United States. And if they really wanted really want to destroy United States economy, they could just sanction all the rare earth minerals, and United States will not be able to get any of these minerals from anywhere else. And it would take them years to build something, to start mining them in the United States and processing them. It will take years. It's just not going to happen overnight. So this was just like a warning by the Chinese to the Americans. They said, you carry on, giving us sanctions, we're going to start fighting back. And China has not been fighting back until now. So this is the first time I've seen China fighting back with trade sanctions the United States have been putting on. So after Blinken, it was Janet Yellen who went there. And look at this article. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen reportedly ate halogen mushrooms at a restaurant during China visit. So why do you think they released this ridiculous article? They're basically saying that she took magic mushrooms in a Chinese restaurant. And the reason they said this is because of this clip here. And you can see this clip here where Janet Yellen was bowing up and down. She bowed 3 times as she landed from the plane, and she was bowing. And this was basically the Western narrative. CNN tried to explain away the embarrassing bow by Yellen in China. She was high on mushrooms. So that was the narrative by the West, basically. Because she was high on mushrooms, she wouldn't stop bowing. And it was quite embarrassing because, you know, the only people that bow in China are the Japanese and the Koreans, and she probably mistook the Chinese as somebody you bow to, and she probably got confused. And maybe according to her, she probably thinks all Asians are the same, or they probably look the same. So she probably thought you would just bow at them. So obviously she probably got confused, or she's just really ignorant. I don't know. Either way, you got it completely wrong, and she made herself look absolutely silly by bowing like 10 times. So it was kind of ridiculous that this was their idea of me basically explaining away why she was bowing like all these times and stuff. But it didn't work. Her trip to China did not work. It not, she came back with zero fruits. And you can see here, Yellen Blinken meetings won't fix weakening foundation. So Chinese people and China are all about actions, not words. You can't just go there and demand things and say nice words and stuff and expect China to follow. Because end of the day, if the United States wants to show its goodwill, then it needs to get rid of all these sanctions, or even start getting rid of sanctions, start getting rid of these tech sanctions they've been putting against China, stop interfering with China's internal affairs. A lot of things. Once it's all about actions in the day, and unless these actions stop, you know, China's going to be not going to be very welcoming to people like Yellen and stuff, and give United States concessions. End of the day, it's all down to United States. If they can show goodwill by getting rid of some of these sanctions or stop interfering with China's internal affairs, then China will reciprocate back. And this is what Chinese people are like. If you If you're nice to a Chinese person, they'll be doubly nice back to you. If you're nasty to a Chinese person, they'll be doubly nasty to you back. And that's how it works. It's all about actions at the end of the day. And Chinese people, you know, you know, Chinese civilization has been going for thousands of years, and this is why words do not matter to Chinese people. And I lived in China. It's all about actions. It's all about your actions. And if you can say something, but if you don't follow it up with your actions, then, Chinese people are not going to trust you. And this is what's happened, really. Biden's been promising a lot of things. Blinken's been promising a lot of things. Yellen's been promising a lot of things. But at the end of the day, the actions say otherwise. And this is an example. You can see here, Yellen promised um, they're going to basically start cutting tariffs, but the reality is U.S. policy, U.S. politics is not going to allow it, and that's basically the reality. They can say all the nice things they want, but the reality is just it's not going to happen. The Congress and people behind the scenes running the White House are not going to allow it. And then you have Blinken saying all these ridiculous things as well, saying if China fails to intervene in North Korea, we will take actions, says Anthony Blinken. So this is basically about North Korea doing its missile tests. And today you gotta understand why they're doing it. And this is all down to United States and South Korea. They agreed that they're going to have nuclear submarines parked right on, Busan, right on North Korea's doorsteps. Obviously, North Korea are going to start taking action because of that. So, all of these actions, people don't realize it's all down to United States first, and all these countries that take action because of that is down to them. I mean, United States think they can do whatever the hell they want, and other countries who just should just bow down and say sorry sir, please sir, whatever you say sir. It just doesn't work like that. And then he also talked about fentanyl stuff as well. He wanted China to help the United States with fentanyl. And then a couple of days after got back to United States, US basically put some sanctions on Chinese companies. So that's not the way to basically work with someone if you want to kind of get rid of fentanyl issues or drug issues. This is not the kind of way to deal with diplomacy. For example, if a friend of mine wanted to work with me on something, to basically, uh, something that's really important to him, and he needed my help. If he came to my house and start swearing at me, saying, "Oi, oi, bitch, help me with this shit," if he starts talking to me like that, you think I'm going to help him? Of course not. He needs to be nice to me and try and, you know, y- you can't just suddenly, kick someone and then expect them to do you a favor. It just doesn't work like that. If you want to work with China on the drug issues and fentanyl issues, then you got to stop sanctioning Chinese companies because of it. And then I saw this today, by the way. I decided to kind of put this today. And this is why this guy is the worst foreign minister in the world. This guy says this today. Ukraine liberates half of territory seized by Russia, US Secretary of State says. Have you looked at the map, Mr. Blinken? I just can't believe that this guy comes up with this here. And I just can't believe there are people who believe this crap. It's the same sort of crap he used to say before that Ukraine was winning, Russia was losing. Putin's got cancer, he's gonna die. You know, basically, Russia's running out of weapons, blah blah. All this crap that's coming out of his mouth and stuff, and it's just another one of those crappy uh, fight that comes out. And Kerry went to China, obviously, and obviously, the I mean, here it says, with Kerry, China signals it will go its own way on climate change policy. That's exactly not what's happened. Basically, what's happened is Kerry's gone to China to need he wants help from China when it comes to climate. And when I say he wants help from China, he basically wants money from China. So United States, as you know, from the last COP 27, it was agreed that all the developed countries would pay 100 billion towards the global south and help them with climate change and help them get out of fossil fuels and start helping them with renewable stuff. And also, they agreed to kind of pay for historical emissions as well, because in terms of historical emissions, United States and Great Britain are the biggest historical emitters. They've been emitting CO2 for hundreds of years because they were one of the first industrialized major nations. So they obviously have to pay their fair share of historical emissions and stuff. And also, they agreed that they're going to pay 100 billion or so to the global south. Again, that figure has not been met by the developed countries. And this is why they want China's help. Basically, they want China to pay for it. And so he wants China, and this is one of the reasons why they wanted to put China as a developed country, because they recently put a vote in the Congress turning China from a developing country to a developed country, because they wanted to put China into that bracket, so China pays this basically pays for climate change and stuff. But China didn't have any of it. Um, again, United States has done a lot of stuff when it comes to climate to China. They've banned um, solar panels coming out of China, put sanctions on solar companies in Xinjiang, talking about forced labor and stuff like that. So everything that the United States is doing, putting all these sanctions on renewable companies and stuff, is just basically crap. And the other thing is John Kerry he's flying around with his private jet to China. So he's got his own private jet, and he's flying around everywhere with his private jet. And he's advocating climate change, and he's talking about reducing CO2, and he's flying around everywhere with his private jet. And again, it's just double standards. If you're an advocate for climate and you want to reduce CO2, you don't fly around with you don't have your own private jet and fly around with private jets everywhere. This is not what you do. So obviously that's hypocritical. And China again, he's not having any of it. So all of these guys that are going all the way to the United States, they all want something from China. But I'm glad that China has not basically given in to the United States. They know it's all about actions. They want to see from something from the United States first, and then China will obviously do something back. It's basically tit for tat. Basically, you sanction China, they sanction China back. You reduce tariffs, China will reduce its tariffs, and that's how it works. And there's also lots of talks about decoupling and de-risking. De-risking and decoupling is just the same thing, guys. It's basically de-risking just sounds a bit nicer, but it's the same thing. Decoupling, de-risking, and that's what the United States is trying to do. And the proof is there. China is no longer United States' biggest trade partner. It's now Mexico, and China is not even number two. Number two is Canada. So it's Mexico first, Canada number two, then is China. And a few years ago, China was number one. So you can see United States is already decoupling from China, and what China is doing is basically focusing more on the global south, on the Middle East. They have a lot of money coming in from the Middle East. Like Saudi Arabians are investing a hell of a lot in China at the moment, and also a lot of investment coming in from the Middle East, UAE, Qatar, even Iran as well. So China's getting while China's losing a lot of business from the United States, is gaining a lot from the Middle East and also from the global South as well, South Asia and Africa, and even like parts of Europe. You know, believe it or not, there's a lot of German companies that are increasing their investments in China, car companies and also BASF who has moved to China as well. There's a lot of companies are moving from Germany into China. So even though the United States is trying to decouple from China, you know, whatever they're trying to do, it's not going to be the same thing because at the end of the day, you know, advantages of having a company in China is very advantage. You have a huge labor force, cheap labor force. You have cheap energy. China has got huge amounts of energy reserves. They got huge amounts of, renewable energies, plus obviously oil and coal and stuff like that. But the point is, they are still the biggest renewables energy provider. They have got the largest amount of solar and wind power in China, and energy is cheap. The country who has the cheapest energy will always have an advantage. Energy is cheap, labor is cheap, and you know so China's still got many advantages, and other advantages is basically the supply chain. You have the Belt and Road trains going straight to Europe. You have all the mines. China has got control of 80% of the mines around the world. They've got access to all the rare earth minerals and all the kind of lithium mines as well. So in terms of supply chains, you can't go wrong. All the raw materials are there, all the supply chains are there. You have cheap labor, you have cheap energy. So you know, if you want to be a company and you want to make money, China is the thing. And I'll give you an example. For example, Tesla, right? Tesla's got obviously a factory in Shanghai. They're building another one. And there was a company in the United States, two companies actually, Rivian and Lucid. So they decided not to open a factory in Shanghai. They decided not to open a factory in China. They decided to open it in the United States. And look at them now. Lucid is about to go bankrupt. Rivian is about to go bankrupt, and because they just can't, and look at the price for Lucid cars compared to Tesla. Tesla cars are now around $50,000 in United States, but Lucid cars are selling for $130,000, and they're not even as good as the Tesla models. And it just goes to show nobody's buying them because you know to kind of manufacture a car in the United States is so much more expensive compared to manufacturing it in China. And that's just an example, guys. United States can decouple from China all it wants, but end of the day, the cost just is just going to be more, and you're just going to have businesses going back to China. And now even Lucid is saying, "Oh, we need to open up a factory in China, and that's our next." What's our next project? So Lucid is trying to basically open a factory now in China, but it's too little, too late. They've missed the boat because if you're a electric car company, you want to open up a factory in China, you missed the boat, mate, because there's hundreds of Chinese electric companies who are way ahead of you, and they should have done it when Tesla was opening their factories in China. It's too late now. So this is basically the dollar. You can see like in 1 month how the dollar has been falling, and this is really bad news for the US economy because if the dollar falls, it means a couple of things. Number one, the dollar basically is not worth much compared to what it was, last year or something. And this is bad news because imports are going to be more expensive because you need more dollars to buy more goods from other countries. Because if the dollar falls and other currencies are getting stronger, then imports are going to be more expensive. And United States is an import country. They are over 1 trillion in terms of trade deficits. So you know, so they buy more than they export to other countries. So that's the problem, really. So that means inflation's is gonna carry on going up. Um, Cost of living's gonna carry on going up. The dollar's gonna carry on going down, and things are not good because when you have a trade deficit over 1 trillion and you're basically more of an import country than an export country, then this is really bad news for the United States. But the biggest bad news for the United States is the bond yields. And even when Yellen was in China at the time, I was looking at the bond yields on the day when Yellen was having the meeting with China. And some people around the world, or some countries around the world, were selling US bonds like crazy. And the bond prices have been shooting down even while Yellen was in China. So the bond yields are at a 15-year high, again, which is bad news. This means that they're going to have to increase their interest rates. The dollar's going to be hit even more. And they're going to be more issues with their banks, and businesses are going to go bankrupt even more because already the bankruptcy for the last 6 months is higher than the whole of 10 years previously. So there's been more bankruptcies in the last 6 months than the whole of 10 years put together. And yeah, because bankruptcies are high because as they keep raising interest rates, obviously, if you have a loan as a business, your loan repayments are going to be higher. If you have a mortgage, your mortgage repayments are going to be higher, and it's just spiraling out of control. It's going to be a very, very major crash happening very soon. So I just wanted to kind of talk about why all of this has happened, and again, I want to kind of talk about why Kissinger went in there. So Blinken went to China, it's failed. Yellen's gone to China, it's failed. John Kerry went to China and he's failed. So the neocons and obviously people running the military industrial complex basically decide to send Kissinger because they know Kissinger has a good relationship with China. There isn't anyone in the Congress, or there isn't anyone in the United States administration who has got any good relationship with China. Not one. Nearly all of them are China hawks. Nearly all of them basically hate China. And you can just see like Congress and the Republicans and the Democrats, they all agree on one thing, that's China's the enemy. So Kissinger is the only person in the United States who's actually trying to calm things down, who's saying good things about China. And so this is why they sent him. They don't care he's 100 years old. They don't care he could die on the flight. He decided to send him to kind of calm things down a bit or maybe get some concessions. But at the end of the day, you got to understand that Kissinger is not part of the administration. So if he went there, he would have been sent by somebody above the administration. So we're talking about the military industrial complex or or the basically not the administration, not Biden wouldn't ask him to go. He was basically out of his own accord, based on instruction from other people. Um, so he went there to try and kind of calm the situation. But at the end of the day, like I said before, him going there doesn't really, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. It's all about actions by the United States, and you can see now. Only yesterday, United States did a major military offensive targeting China. Just, they had Australia there and stuff. And they're selling weapons to India. They're building military bases in Philippines. They're preparing for war, in the day. And China knows this. And end of the day, why should China help give money to the military industrial complex when they will come back and basically destroy China with that money? Because at the end of the day, if China decides to help the United States and help it avoid a recession, they're basically the money is just going to go into the military-industrial complex. It's not going to go to any, infrastructure, or it's not going to help the people. It's all going to go down to the military-industrial complex, and they're going to use that money to build more bases. They're going to build, target China even more. They're going to buy more military hardware to target China. So why should China help them, basically? And I, and I know there are some people who are saying that end of the day, um, it's in China's interest for United States not to go into recession. I don't think China cares, to be honest. But I mean, look at all of these sanctions United States have been placing on China. The fact that they're going along this decouple route. I don't think China cares if United States go into recession or not. It might be a good thing for the world. And China is prepared for every scenario. They're prepared for United States going into recession, they also prepared for a war with the United States as well. So things are pretty much heating up in Asia, but there are also things heating up in Ukraine as well. I've just heard that Putin and President of Belarus had a meeting. Um, there's Wagner forces in Belarus that are looking to attack Poland, and there's Poland that's looking to go into Western Ukraine. There seems to be something brewing in there as well, and that could escalate very fast. So I'm going to make another video on that. Might make it tomorrow. We'll chat a bit more about that. So thanks a lot for listening, guys. And again, hope to see you guys soon. And don't forget to like, share, and again, it's very important to make sure you subscribe to my new channel. The link is going to be in the description, and I'll see you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.